Hello and welcome to our Coffee and Consulting, the first one of this year. I'm not quite sure whether you still can wish a Happy New Year, but I will. I hope you have a wonderful 26 with everything you wish for, and um, the and most likely or hopefully more peace, more quiet times as well as healthy and happy year. It's nice to meet you all again in 26. We will run our coffee and consulting still every month. In principle, the first Monday of the month, but now this year it's only today due to bank holidays and so on. I hope you started well and have your cup of coffee or cup of tea, and we can dive in our today's topic, budget and cost of assignments, which is a huge one, at least if I look at our clients, as well as the discussions in the global mobility world. So I think there's a lot we still need to do. And maybe you come in the end to the conclusion, actually, no, we do already everything and it works perfectly. Then this is absolutely fine. And it's just a kind of an additional additional topic or additional ideas you might get. Otherwise, you might get the idea or the inspiration as well to start with that topic and to go in a direction where we can budget better as well as have a better feeling about the costs of the assignments. Before I start, my name is Friederike Ruch. I have the honor to be your today's host and also would like to invite you to ask any kind of questions you have. And for this, you have the possibility to write down your questions during the event, and I will then happily answer them after I finish with the presentation, which will go about 20 minutes, and then we have a bit of time to still answer your questions. In case you don't find the time right now during the presentation to write them, I'm happy if you just drop me an email and we will get back to you then afterwards. Before we also start, I said already, on the right-hand side there, you will find the box where you can write down all your questions, and which I will then answer thereafter. Also, you're all unmute, so during the presentation, you will not be able to speak. In addition, on the right-hand side again, you will find the slides for today's presentation. So if you would like to download them while we have the presentation, that is perfectly fine, and we're happy that you do so. Last point, today's event will be recorded, and you will find that again at our YouTube channel, where you also can listen to it at another time. So then I think we should definitely start because we have a couple of things to look at. Our today's topic is budget and cost of assignments, and I think it is quite important also from an HR perspective to have a good understanding about the cost structure, as well as check on how you currently manage those assignment budgets, whether you manage it at all or you just kind of just in case there is an invoice, you just pay that and that's good. And then you just say, okay, that's an assignment related cost, and at some point you might make the calculation of how much the assignment has cost. I mean, if you have, honestly, if you have only a couple of assignments a year, then that might be also a way to go in case you have a bit more, as well as you would like to also check on the budget and also make sure in the end to the business that yes, the assignment is costly, and yes, there are certain costs associated, but also then go to the next step and say, but we also get a return on it because we needed that individual working for us in whatever country, and the return is actually balancing out the cost involved. Also, and we had, I think, last year a session about it, about the return on investment. It's not just what the individual then is actually bringing back to the business while he is on while he or she is on assignment, but also to see when the individual returns to the home country, what is there then the benefit for the firm. And I think in that regard, like the calculation of return on investment, this is maybe something definitely we should look also to it. But before we can do that part, we need to look at the cost side and see that we make sure we have everything under control in that regard. Now, clearly, depending on the assignment type, the cost will be different. So it depends a bit on then what your international assignment looks like. If we talk about an international assignment, we understand that the employee is employed by employer A, and he or she is sent to work in another country for either a legal entity in the other country or or on a client side for a limited period, and afterwards will actually return back home. So like the example here indicated from Sabine Miller. Now to that also is including short-term assignment, which is usually up to a period of 1 year, but it depends a bit on the firm. And again, there is no right length or required length. It is something you determine as a firm what it means. Long-term assignments, usually up to maximum 6 years. Now, you maybe also find the one or the other assignment which is even taking already much longer. When I started about 25 years ago, there we had a client who actually had assignments done for kind of for forever. So there were people just moving at one point to the other country and then kind of integrated, established their place there, and never thought about returning back to Switzerland. And business travelers, commuters is also belonging to that group of international assignments we look at now. And if you just think about those three different types, then clearly also it comes to your mind that there are different costs involved. It's for a different period, and clearly business travelers and commuters might be usually less expensive than the short-term or the long-term assignment. However, there's also sometimes a bit of a misconception that people think there will be no cost involved, and we will look at that in a second. but why actually is the budgeting something which I think is quite important, as well as the cost management should be something you deal with. Assignments as such are more expensive than if you would actually locally hire someone in the other country. Like if we look at that example here, where Sabine Miller is assigned to a different country with her current salary of 120,000 Swiss francs. Now, if she would be assigned with all the additional cost and whatever, she comes up, or the total compensation sums up to 252, which is not unreasonable if you think about all the different cost elements. Now, if the firm thinks about whether actually shall we assign Sabine Miller to that country and for that position, or maybe not really think about someone hiring locally, then the cost element will comes into the discussion. And there is lots of pro and cons on both sides, but in the end, for that, if you want to defend the assignment, then definitely you need to know what the costs are, as well as then for a good way of dealing with it, you should be able also to see what your budget is and then see how you can actually keep the budget in line, or also see where maybe then increases had happened during the assignment period. There should be a clear expectation as well for the management and for all stakeholders what the budget is, what the cost associated will be, and then also to see and make sure that whenever possible, to avoid any kind of budget overruns. But as a general idea, to say an assignment usually costs about 2.5 to 3 times the for a local hire, that tends to and is quite a good and reasonable number, because we're also looking at that sample which just indicated the 252, but there's lots of other costs on top of it which have been not involved or not included in that number. What are the typical cost components? So there are lots of one-time costs and ongoing costs. We try to kind of split them up in those two columns. The types of costs we have included in that table are not complete, so there you will find, depending on the firm, also different names to it, different types of cost, depending on the company's needs in the end. So please don't take that as the complete list. In addition to those costs, you also have to look at costs, the internal cost for whatever you do, that has to be considered on top of it. But the typical costs are really the ones above, then base salary, bonus, so the compensation. Housing is definitely something which is maybe a huge, or has usually a huge effect on it. Taxes, social security, the insurances, and you most likely have also seen, as soon as there are kids involved, and as a firm you want to or will then in the end also pay for the tuition for the international school, then it quite quickly adds up to quite a good number. To give you an idea, I mean, if you look at an international school here in Zurich, in Switzerland, then you need to consider about 30,000 a year per child. And that is a usual number. So you see that quite quickly that can add up to quite a good number. And also in regard to housing, you see how the rental prices are. It's not, they are quite significant. So there you also can quite quickly go into a high number. And then also keep in mind, in case you actually will pay for the education for the kids for your employee, that might lead then to an additional tax or social security cost, depending a bit on the country and how you structure it. But keep that in mind as well. So it's not just the cost itself you will actually pay for, but there might be then on top of it tax and social security associated to it. Now, we know what kind of cost there might be incurring. So what we need to do for the budget planning is to check on the assignment type we have for the case. So if we take now here the sample of Gareth, who is a UK national employed in London, and he shall go to an assignment for 3 years to the US. So we clearly have a long-term assignment in his situation. Now, the next step would be to see what is the compensation approach. Like, is it basis of home-based with then the additional allowances, or is it, do you use a balance sheet approach? Do you use a host approach? So depending a bit on what you do, and that typically you will find the approach of it outlined in your assignment policy, expat policy, global mobility policy, whatever you name that policy. And there it should be outlined whatever you do, so that you can take as a starting point. Then again, you need to look at all the different cost elements involved. Now, if we take that case, he is, let's say, single, so definitely there will be no schooling cost for kids, no cost for any spouse or whatever, but we definitely will have cost of the moving, cost of the travel to the US and back again at the um, end of the assignment to the UK. We might have a home leave in between per year. We have the cost of housing in the US, most likely. We have someone dealing with the work permit, so in the immigration cost. We need to check on health insurance, whether and insurance coverage as such, whether that is reasonable or there needs to be taken out something on top of it. What else? Taxes. There needs to be someone filing his tax returns. We might have tax equalization involved. So there's lots of different things, as you see, what needs to be dealt with. And whatever you actually pay, you will find those cost elements again in the policy. If you then add up everything, then you can make an estimate of the annual assignment cost, also called an assignment projection. And then it would be good usually to run the scenario and a kind of a sensitivity analysis, so to see whether that is actually really the cost which you want to pay, or which are based on the policy the individual is entitled to. And then as a last point, check that internally with your payroll department, tax team, as well as maybe also with external providers regarding tax and social security and insurances. So that in the end, you have in your budget actually all the different elements included, and you have a good view or can say, actually, I'm quite positive that's my budget for the assignment, and therefore can go to your business and tell them, would you approve the assignment based on that budget? Because usually you would need to provide the business a certain number to say, is that fine for you? Are you agreeing on sending that the individual to whatever other country, like here to the US? So adding to the business case as well as the cost element to it, which I think is quite important. And I'm pretty sure each of you will do that in one or the other way. Now, having done that assignment cost protection, so we done the budget, we have now our assignment cost protection. There are certain tools or for that cost calculation on the market. You can find them, as well as it's always good to also check on what benchmark data there is to check on the numbers you have now in your assignment cost projection, as well as external data you might want to need for cost of living allowance and so on. What you should do is really a close cooperation with the payroll and tax team, because in the end, the costs and everything will also run through the payroll and tax for tax purposes as well as social security purposes. So to make sure everything is actually really in line. And this is something which is quite important to also control during the assignment, the cost, to always check then maybe at the year end or take whatever period you want to look at to make a regular check of the budget, to track everything and to see whether the your budget actually meets the effective cost, or whether that kinds of the actual cost will kind of go out of hand and will be much higher. There might be certain incidents or certain situations where the effective cost will be much higher than or will increase in comparison to your budgeting. Might be the family status changes, exchange rates are something, as well as cost of living might be different or changing. So depends a bit also on the period you consider for the assignment. Also, maybe the one or the other promotion included, or salary increases. So that's maybe something where adjustments for changes are quite obvious and you couldn't have budgeted that upfront. And then also then to report that to HR and finance to make sure they are also then seeing why maybe there have been a change, to have the assignment protection as a reliable basis for any kind of assignment planning in the future. And that, I think, is something what the business is really looking for. So to make sure there is a reliable resource, and there is something, if we say the assignment will cost 400,000, then we might be in the end with 420, but if there have been no changes, it is quite in that range. In regards to cost, And also sometimes then assignees, and I think they are actually quite creative, or find always quite a creative way to get whatever they need and want, also from a cost perspective. So in case you make then also exceptions to your policy, and for example you have someone where only should get one home leave, and then the individual might actually check with his boss, with his superior, and says, yeah, but I have still parents living home. I need to check on them more than just once a year. I do want to have 2, 3, or 4 actually home leaves a year because they are so old. And then sometimes business then rather will say yes, also because of the relationship. They don't want to lose the employee, and then that will also incur to additional cost. What we've seen is that if we made those exceptions then being approved not just by the superior, but maybe by the superior of that superior, depending on the involved amount, that helped a lot to decrease the numbers of exception. So that is maybe something you also, maybe you have already that in place, but to think about a very good exception policy is quite crucial for the whole cost part of assignments. Key cost drivers and cost savings. I think the if we go to the key cost drivers, then definitely the tax and social security cost involved, as well as unexpected tax liabilities and unexpected insurance or social security cost, better to say, as well as assignment extensions, or also unclear and inconsistent policies. There you then quickly see that based on your assignment projection of the cost, that will kind of never fit to the effective situation. In regard to saving opportunities, or better to say, to make sure everything is in line, clearly it's good to have to choose the right assignment type from the beginning, to have a good um, mobility policy. Now, that doesn't need to be a 40 or 50 page policy where every little detail is in, but a mobility or global mobility policy which actually resemble your population, the need, as well as to helps the business the growth they need, or the results in the end they need. And also check on the early and realistic cost planning. With that, you will see that your budget is actually in life, it's efficient, and you have the good, you are in a good place with that. Now, the roles and responsibilities about the budget and the cost is also quite important, and to make sure that as a global mobility or HR function, you are the one in the end who will bring everything together, who will take from everybody the numbers and the different cost elements, and then put that in the assignment projection, and have you in the seat of saying, we do that, we actually take care and check whether that is in line with effectively will be, and to have a good source as well then for the business, to for each assignment case to say, if you want to send the individual to whatever country, please provide us with the business case. There's the business reason, and then here attached to that, this will be the cost. So you have the complete good picture for it. Finance and controlling will definitely see that as a perfect tool. Line management also need to be has a kind of an involvement in it, because usually they are the ones in the end who will approve additional cost or will make changes to the assignment, and therefore it might be good to have them on board as well. And then external partners you need to rely on like cost for the moving, or for the travel cost, or for tax and social security. So all that you need to keep in mind as well. So that was on a very high level basis, a bit the summary, or better to say the summary we will have. I can only just say it again. Transparent global mobility policy, a one which actually really is drafted and designed for your own population. So if you just get one from another firm and just kind of copy paste it with your logo and put it on your paper, that might be not that helpful. It is good. You will have a policy, yes, and might be good as a starting point, but in the end, you will need to adjust that to your own need. And there, each firm has a different strategy, has different goals. You also have to adjust the global mobility policy every now and then to look at the feedback from the assignees you had, as well as from the business, and to see whether actually the one in place is the one you want to have for the future and might be the right one, or you rather say no, actually we need to make certain changes. And like you also with a staff handbook, you will make adjustments from time to time. With the global mobility policy, you will need to do that as well. Early budget approval process to if you've done your assignment projection, you get the approval for everything, so that and continuous monitor the cost. So that is helpful, and I think the best way going forward. Again, it will put you from the global mobility in a quite of better situation, as well as in the driver's seat more to for your assignments. Assignments are more costly than local employments, but they are a strategic investment in the end. And with any investment you do as a firm, you need to have reasons for it, and therefore, and you also want to know how much it in the end will cost. Therefore, the assignment projection of the cost is quite important. And with the cost control, the good planning, that leads just to an satisfaction from on the employee side, because he knows exactly on what the result had been, and it was not something which surprisingly happened, as well as for the business and for the for the finance, so that everybody is on the same page. I hope you maybe had the one or the other idea or new idea which I was explaining. or maybe you just say, okay, we are on a good way. We have everything established in our firm already in that area, so there's nothing we need to change and adjust. Now the place would be open for any kind of questions from your end. Your experience with assignment costs, typical challenges you have. Up to now, there is no question from your end, but maybe also you had not the time to write them down. Then if everything had been answered, there's no open question for the moment. That is perfectly fine, and I'm happy to see that. Then before I would conclude with today's coffee and consulting, I quickly would like to show you what you can expect in the next few weeks from us. One is we have a seminar, half-day seminar taking place in the Bauer Luck about the topic Global Teams, Local Rules, Compliance with Remote Working. It's held in German, so in case you are interested in it, then just get registered, as well as then on the 24th of February, we have a webinar with the topic of business travels and compliance, and then the next coffee and consulting on the 2nd of February, also to the topic business trips. Please keep in mind the webinars are only held in German, only the coffee and consulting at the moment are held in English. I hope you enjoyed today's event. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to meet you again on either of the other events, or at least next month on our coffee and consulting. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.